We are going to continue our lessons in reading by using multiple sources to get information in lesson 20 this week. So the target says putting together information from several texts on one topic will make you knowledgeable about that topic. When you read, you learn information about a topic or what a text is about. You can integrate or put together information on a topic from more than one source. As a result, you will be able to speak and write more knowledgeably about the topic. Read this comic strip. Think about why the characters must put together information from multiple sources. You all got directions to the mystery party? Yeah, but they don't make sense. What does yours say? My text says on First Street and Palace. Mine says 10th and the pizza. Mine says April and at 7 p.m. So it sounds like they all got different pieces of a message to go somewhere. Now we are going to look at the following page at the chart. It asks questions and wants us to answer those questions based off of the picture that we saw. So the question is, where and when is the mystery party? We have to say where and when the party happened. So in the first message, it says First Street and Pizza. The second message says, the first message says First Street Palace. The second message says 10th and the pizza. And the third says April at 7 p.m. Now, we're going to take the information and describe everything we know about the party after putting all of this information from all the messages together. We want to use any details we can see in the comic strip as well as the information in the chart. Now, this is a sample answer. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but it should be something similar. By combining the information in the messages, the three people can figure out that they are invited to a mystery party that will take place on April 10th at 7 p.m. at the Pizza Palace on First Street. So all three text messages go together in order to get the full invitation. A mystery party, it will take place on April 10th. April was in the last message. 10th was in the second message. 7 p.m. was in the last message. The Pizza Palace was in the second and first message out of order. And on First Street was in the first message. So yours doesn't have to be the same as this, but it should be something similar. Now we are going to read two stories about two different men who are credited for the invention of the telephone. As we read, we're going to do our closed reader habit, which says underline details about both inventors, such as who they were, the main thing they did, and why they did it. So our first article is Bell and the telephone. On March 10th, Alexander Graham Bell's hard work paid off. Thomas Watson's friend and fellow inventor heard Bell speaking clearly from the receiving end of the very first working telephone. Bell was an inventor through and through. He had a deep fascination with sound and wanted to invent a way to transmit it over long distances. He started small. He developed techniques and devices to communicate with his mother and other members of the deaf community. He performed sound experiments with whatever he could, from tuning forks to the family dog. Eventually, Bell figured out that electricity would be the key to transmitting sound, but he didn't know enough about it. That didn't stop him. In 1875, when he met Watson, a skilled electrical engineer, Bell asked for his help. That year, Bell wrote his first patent for technology to transmit voices over a wire line. 1 year later, he introduced the telephone to the United States. He patented his electronic speech machine in 1876. So, who was Bell? He was an inventor. What work did he do? He worked on the telephone. He patented the electronic speech machine. He used electricity to transmit the sound. And why did he do all this? Because he wanted to invent a way to transmit sound over long distances. Our second story is called Did did Gray or Bell invent the telephone? And it is about a different inventor. Elisha Gray was a gifted electrical engineer. He was one of the most important inventors of his time. In 1876, he was ready to patent an amazing device. He had invented one of the very first telephones, yet Gray is unknown to most people today. Why? The telegraph invented in the 1870s allowed written messages to be transmitted along a wire. It was popular, but many people wanted more. Inventors raced to develop a way to transmit a person's voice along a wire. In 1876, Elisha Gray had found a way. But on the very same day that the patent office in Washington received word of his invention, they received a patent application for the same technology from someone else. That person's name was Alexander Graham Bell. Bell was awarded the first U.S. patent for the telephone later that year. While the patent office said they had received Bell's application first, the true inventor of the telephone has been debated since. So, who was Elisha Gray? He was an electric engineer and an important inventor. Most people don't know who he is. That's important to know. I had never heard of him before today. What did he work on? He worked on the telephone. He worked on transmitting voices along a wire. And why did he do this? Well, he did it because many people wanted more than just the telegraph. Make sure you underline those key details in the text. Looking at the chart on the following page, we're going to take details from each passage to answer these questions. So, who were Bell and Gray? Well, in Bell's article, it says that he was an inventor. In Gray's article, it says that he was an electrical engineer and inventor. What work did they do? Well, they both worked with telephones or transmitting sounds over wires. Bell patented his electronic speech machine in 1876. Gray invented one of the first telephones in 1876. Both did work on the same year. They actually submitted their patents to the patent office at the same day, but Bell's just got there sooner. So the story says. And why did they do it? Why did they do this work? Well, Bell did it because he wanted to send sound over long distances. And Gray wanted to send a person's voice over a wire to improve the telegraph. So many people like the telegraph, but they wanted more than just the telegraph. If you need to take a minute to pause the video to get those responses down, you may. And then you can unpause the video so that we can write our short response on page 358. So we are going to use our ideas that we wrote in our chart to answer the short response on page 358. The short response says, explain who Bell and Gray were, the main thing each man did, and why they did it. Use details from both passages in your response. So if I was going to write my own response for this, I would say Gray and Bell were both inventors that worked on improving the telephone technology. Bell wanted to send voices over long distances, and Gray wanted to improve the telegraph technology to send voice over a wire. I would say while they both helped with the technology of the telephone, Bell is the one who is given the most credit because his patent is said to have gotten to the patent office first. That would be my response. Here is another sample response. Alexander Graham Bell and Elisha Gray were inventors. Both wanted to invent a machine that would let people speak over distances along a wire. Bell figured out that electricity was the key and asked an electrical engineer to help him. Both men eventually figured out how to send sound along a wire and did so at about the same time. In 1876, Bell got his patent for his electronic speech machine. On the same day, Gray applied for a patent. So both my response and the book response are very similar, but they are not the exact same. Your response does not have to be the exact same either, but it should be similar.